Alright guys, welcome to our first episode of Lous Brew Reviews for Flytrap Studios with myself, Jay Skulka.
Lucian Black.
And Lucian Black. We're here today at Heroes And Villians Brewing in the beautiful Osborne Park with head brewer Shannon Mizen. How you going, mate?
Yeah, good mate.
Good. So tell us a little bit about how this all came about and about your kind of journey into brewing.
Well, I started brewing out of necessity. We got our mortgage, which meant that I couldn't afford to buy all the beer that I loved to buy.
I hear.
So started doing a bit of home brewing in the old Cooper's kits, you know, the syrup.
Yep.
And over time, just started getting better, you know, getting more interested in how to actually brew. And then went from that to my wife bought me an all-grain brewing book, which is how to make, you know, things.
Yep.
Which then meant I had to buy, you know, the thousands of dollars worth of equipment that goes with the book. From there, just started getting more and more interested in how to make beer, started entering competitions and winning some prizes. And my background in sales and marketing, so I thought,
hand in hand.
A bit of sales and marketing and reasonable beer. Yep, should be all right.
Did you end up getting a lot more mates as you progressed into brewing more beer?
I did. Yeah, they didn't seem to bring beers to the party anymore.
It's always the downside.
Yeah.
It's always the downside. So what do we got today to taste? Is this the core range that you guys?
This is the core range. So I've got 4 here, and then we'll have a little sneaky taste of one of the villains. So
Lovely.
I'll just tell you a bit about the range first of all. So the white cans that you can see, they're all the core range, the Heroes.
Yep.
And then when you go into a bottle shop or you're in a bar and you see a black label, that's the villains.
That's the villains, yep.
So these ones are,
it all makes sense.
Where the name comes from.
Hey,
That's marketing and sales.
Hey!
This guy.
Yeah, I know, I'm wise. So the ones that we're going to go through, these are all really easy drinking ones. So we'll go through those. I'll give you a taste of that. So we'll start with, we'll go from light to dark.
Awesome.
So the first one we've got is a beer called Saigon.
Saigon.
So this is a really mild pale ale.
Yep.
But it has honey, lemongrass, and ginger.
Oh wow!
So imagine I came up with this recipe
very
after.
clear too.
Yeah,
You can smell the honey straight off the bat.
Yeah. So
awesome.
this is. We took the kids to Saigon and had a really good time. It was hot, so you know you're drinking that nice dry, crisp beer.
Yep.
And then you got all those great foods of Asia. So between my wife and I, we came up with this one.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, it smells awesome.
I can smell the honey. The lemongrass is right there.
Yeah, I didn't know what the smell was until you sort of mentioned that it had honey in there. Because
Is that sorry?
Because I prefer Melbourne Bitter.
Well, it's a bit like that.
Do you prefer Melbourne Bitter to this, or just as a general preference?
I'm opening up my palate now, so old mate's getting me out of my old ways. So hence the brew reviews. But I can smell the honey. Like I'm not much of a connoisseur, but it does smell fruity.
So if you get, and there's a bit of tartness to it, and the tartness is the lemongrass.
Yeah. Okay. What kind of honey do you use? Is it all like locally sourced kind of natural honey?
Yeah, so it's we use varying, depending on the time of year, is the honey you can get. So either Jarrah or Bankshire.
Bankshire, okay, nice.
Taste the honey and also like a ginger, like a real ginger note.
Yeah, so that ginger's there to cut through the sweetness. And
the lemon's just so refreshing too.
Yeah, it's so crisp. So did you come across many, because I've heard from a few people, my dad especially, he goes to Vietnam quite a lot and is pretty amazed to see how big the craft brew scene is over there. Was that a bit of a shock when you?
Surprised, we were about 6 years ago. So it was just kind of starting up. But past the street brewery, I was there every day with the kids, bought burgers.
Of course.
Fantastic.
There were a few others that were really good.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the kind of the craft brew wave is spreading throughout the world, throughout the world. You know, not just in places like Australia and the UK and America, but great.
It is taking off because I'm actually trying it now. So
well, that's it. We're slowly converting him.
Drink it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I mean,
this is very, very. I can still smell the honey in it. Like it's sort of like the smell reminds me of like the mead.
Yeah.
Sort of like the honey from a mead, but like it's so like it's good for a hot day. You're right about
Yeah,
that.
perfect for a summer ale.
So
So you can sit there and
Practically
crack away at
free.
those for most of the day. That's great.
Yeah.
So what do we got here, mate?
So this one is called Beer of the New Age, or Botner for short.
Yeah.
This is an American style pale ale, so nice tropical
nice.
fruity.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
very fruity.
5%. So good. This is made to be
Oh, wow.
technically smashable
Yeah.
in a responsible way.
Yeah, of course. So this is more of like a West Coast American IPA kind of style.
Well, being Beer of the New Age, it's a bit of everything.
Yep.
So some people would classify it as an XPA. It's a little bit West Coast,
Yep.
but doesn't quite get up there. with
Yeah,
the
'cause
bitterness.
it kind of reminds me of like some of the Pacific ales that I've tried and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So when we go into like Indian Pale Ale, American Pale Ale, all that IPA, HPA, and all that sort of stuff, what's the actual terminology for it? In a
Yeah,
sense?
well, there's a whole range called the BJCP, which is the beer judging
Yep.
guide, and there are hundreds of different categories.
Far
so
out, yeah.
It's all about what bitterness you have, what alcohol volume,
Yep.
Your flavour, your aroma, mouthfeel.
I can imagine it's
There's
very.
6 different categories within the beer that you have to meet.
Within each
Wow.
Within
wow
beer, yeah.
definition. I mean, and like, it's like we were saying the other day, the difference between a hazy
Yes.
and a normal IPA. Like you'd
tell
say,
the
you can look at the the
Yeah,
colour,
so looking at-
the wheat. If it's kind of like a wheaty, yellowy colour and things like that, it's all
Very fruity.
that's
So
great.
This is an American IPA, is that right?
American Pale Ale.
American Pale Ale, so it's not the IPA.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a little bit less hoppy,
Yep.
but still a fair bit of fruit.
That'll
to
be a
it.
very, very good session drink.
Hmm.
Like if we're like a few beers on the barbie, stuff like that. You know?
Yeah. So how often are you guys brewing in here?
So we used to only brew once a week, but now we're brewing twice a week, most often. At least once a week, if not 2 times.
That's fantastic.
And doing double batches as well, so not just singles, because we're really starting to see
the
a lot of
demand's
demand
coming
come
in.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good for local business and for WA and Perth and that as well. So that's why we're doing this show, to sort of showcase West Australian brewers, music, art,
Food or the whole lot.
food, everything that we can.
All the good stuff coming out of Perth.
Good
I was
stuff.
about to say, there's a fair bit comes out of Perth, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean,
and some good stuff too. Like
yeah, good quality stuff. Awesome.
that is very, very yellow.
Yeah.
I've noticed.
So this
I'll put
is
this away.
citrus IPA.
Oh, okay.
And where does the colour come from?
So that comes from the malt that we use. So we use Munich malt, which is like a nice dark roasted kind of malt.
Munich malt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So German style, because that's usually Munich and Cristal is what they usually use for like Weiss beers and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it gives it a bit of a biscuity kind of backbone.
I'm getting that, like a bit of a kind of cakey, biscuity. That's great.
It's very strong for me.
Yeah,
Like because I'm used to that bitter.
that's it. Well, that's it. The IPAs, it's kind of.
But I think
the
because-
pale ale's more like your lane.
I'm starting to find now that you actually use your nose when you drink. You know what I mean? So I'm actually starting to develop it where the aftertaste is very kind of floral in a sense.
Yep. I should show you actually. I went to Petition Bar once as a customer.
Yep.
And they actually showed us how to sample beer properly.
Okay. Yeah.
So apparently, you put your hand over the top first of all,
Yep.
and you swirl it around to get all of the aromas out.
Yep.
And then you don't put it straight up to your nose. You hold it under your nose a little bit and breathe in.
Oh wow.
So you get broader aromas, and then you take it up to your nose. So
It's like 2 stage of aromas.
yeah, and then when you drink it, you don't sip it. You actually take a mouthful.
Yeah.
And just gulp it.
Oh yeah. So then you get the full palate.
It
Like
tastes
Full body.
like it does.
it does. I think when you sip it, people are used to, when they're doing tastings, used to tasting wines and bourbons and stuff,
like
where it's just wet your whistle, run it across the palate. Whereas it's from front to back, straight down your gullet.
Do it properly.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you. I've learned a new trick.
Yeah, that's
No worries.
That's
I wanna
great.
See that every time.
Yeah,
Right,
that's-
yep. For the next one, we'll be doing that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
So where did the actual name Heroes and Villains come from?
Well, anyone who follows Heroes and Villains at all would probably know that I'm a massive fan of Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh,
And which is Botner, Quatsa.
yep.
Yep.
Bit of a fanboy.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I have been chasing Josh Homme, but he won't take my calls.
Yeah, fair enough. Trying to give him that
Well, if you see
sponsorship.
this, mate, hit him up.
Yeah, we'll tag him in it.
We'll definitely tag him in it. Yep.
So when I was making this beer, which is the first beer that I wanted to make commercially, one of the things I did was the new Queens of the Stone Age album Heroes
Yes.
came out.
Of course, yeah.
And sorry, not Heroes, Villains.
Villains.
Yeah,
came
villains,
out.
yeah.
And
I was thinking,
I was kind of thinking, because the first name that I had, I didn't really like that I had for the brewery.
Are you willing to tell us the first name, or is it a bit?
It's still the company name, which is Ritual Brewing.
Okay.
Ritual's cool.
But it doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
And I suppose the aesthetic would be completely different from that as well. You know, if it was
It's
ritual.
pretty hardcore and pretty masculine.
Yeah.
Not that, I mean, I don't know if that's masculine, but
No, I think it's quite a, an all-round neutral
neutral,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
aesthetic going.
Yeah.
but it kind of harks back to that logo harks back to my punk era
Yeah.
as well. So the old wall spray. things
Yeah,
from
I
the
love it.
English UK punk bands. But yeah, so the name comes from just wanting to pay homage to Queens of the Stone Age because I love them, and most brew days that's all we play.
Yeah, cool.
That's
so I kind
awesome.
of went back through the back catalogue and
Yep.
I was like, oh fuck, I forgot that Villains was the album that I played all day on the first commercial.
Yeah, as
brew
you
I
were
ever
doing
tried
it,
to make.
so may as well integrate it into the business name. Yeah, that's awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's great that, like we were talking about before, that you've been able to tie that into the two different branches of your range. It's,
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Was there maybe like a Caius or a Desert Sessions themed beer coming through, or you,
Desert Sessions would be good fun.
I think that'd be an interesting beer. What you could come up with that?
You could go hard with Desert Sessions.
Yeah, I think that'd probably be like an Imperial or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
like real debaucherous.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely fantastic that
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where you go, everybody integrates something with music.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what we're trying to do here. You know,
Yeah,
beer,
like
food,
that.
music,
Yeah.
smash it all together.
The first
you
thing
know?
I think of is a Guinness.
Yeah, so
Because it's a dark ale, like, it's not really...
if you do your...
Oh yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
Do
I
your
got to remember
swirl.
that. Swirly swirls.
We're going to be doing this all the time now.
Yeah, okay. I'll be down at the Rosemount later on. People will be going, what the fuck is this guy doing?
With your swan.
Yeah, with the Swanee D. Oh wow, biscuit, toffee.
Oh, fantastic.
It's a kind of a little bit of burntness in the bitterness that you get.
Yep, that's chocolate malt.
Okay, cool. So is it like a heavily toasted malt as
Yep.
well? Yeah, great.
Yeah, like a like a sort of toffee.
Mm.
I don't like. I can't stand most dark beers, and I just every time I see one, I think, oh no, it's going to be like trying to chug it down like a Guinness, But
Yeah.
that was really good.
I think this is great because it's not too heavy for a dark ale. It's not too meaty, which just puts a lot of people off of the darker beers. Is that they're just
I reckon
intimidated by it's a square meal in a pint. Whereas
Yeah, that's
this,
right.
I could happily drink this winter or summer.
So this was actually an accident when I first made it.
Far
it
out.
was the second brew I ever did on the kit.
Yep.
And I knew that a brown ale would be forgiving, and I knew that I was going to make mistakes.
Yep.
And so kind of, things didn't quite go to plan as I'd expected. And I wanted to get some more alcohol volume, so I needed some more sugars.
Yep.
So I added some honey to it just to bring it up.
Wow.
So we've got 2 beers with honey in them.
Okay, so this has got honey as well.
Is that what that must be like like a burnt toffee sort of.
That'd be more the malts,
That'll be
wouldn't
the
it?
malts.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you'll find it's for a brown ale, it's quite dry. And that's because honey, because it's pure sugar, it ferments down really low. Of
course.
So
Yes.
it makes it dry, so it reduces the body.
So if you wanted to sweeten it, it'd be like a lactose additive or something rather than a honey. Yeah.
Honey.
So obviously with your
mad.
brews, you use different hops as such. And by saying that you were using honey, do you use different types of sugars with different brews? Like, is there a thing with a brown sugar, a raw sugar, or a white sugar, or?
No, I haven't really played around with sugars much. Most breweries will use dextrose, which is corn sugar.
Yep.
Because it's a good way to bump up your alcohol.
Yep.
And or dry malt extract.
Yep.
But other than that, I like almost all breweries use those. But apart from that, I haven't.
Does it affect the flavour as much with the dextrose, or do you think?
The dextrose doesn't. So the great thing about dextrose is it gives you a lot of sugar.
Yep.
But no colour and no flavour.
that's
Yeah, a lot of bang for your
Unless you
buck.
ferment it quickly, which with all beers anyway, if you ferment it too quickly, then you get that kind of fusel. Some double IPAs, they kind of get that almost
Yes.
petrol.
Yeah, green, like kind of, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's when they've been fermented quickly.
Yep.
Well, maybe that's why our
Maybe
home brews.
that's what happened with
so maybe,
Princess Peach.
well, yeah, because we've been home brewing for a while, and we usually use cane sugar,
Yes.
like numpties. So we might have to make the switch over to dextrose.
Yeah. I
Use
think that's
dextrose.
Note to self.
Or, for those on a budget, as I was, use caster sugar instead.
Okay, so caster sugar's not like it's not
Caster
a bit different.
sugars are slightly more refined.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So the more refined your sugars are, the less kind of byproducts.
Right.
Because we made a
Unintended
mistake
things
by
get out
putting
of it.
findings in one of our brews, because just as experimenting and stuff like that. And
A recipe that I'd won awards with in the past,
Yep.
entering them into local shows, and then we went, we wanted to clear it out a bit, and we used findings, and it's just ruined it. So at least we know that's...
does one brew with me,
Yeah,
and
okay.
stuff it.
Yeah, speaking of experimental, what's the most odd, weird experimental beer that you've come across, and what's the weirdest experiment that you've made personally?
So the strangest beer I've heard of and seen is, there's two. One was some guys jumped naked into the mash tun when they were mashing, and then made a beer out of that. I don't know.
So that the additive was them essentially.
I'm assuming they showered.
You want to hope so.
You'd hope so. I don't think I'd. Did they even sell any of it?
I don't know. I didn't look too far.
Yeah.
There's a beard yeast one where they cultivated yeast from a beard.
Okay.
Oh, and then there's another one where
That's like the ultimate hipster beer if I've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I reckon we could brew a pretty good one between three.
Oh, yeah, I reckon I'll take a little sample each, put it in a petri dish, and
Hey, there you
see
go.
how we go,
We'll
mate.
make Melbourne Bitter then out of beer.
I reckon,
How's that,
you just ring it out after a night out, you know?
That'd be great.
Oh man! So, what about you and your experimentations? What's the wildest kind of thing you've done so far?
The wildest one I've done was called Hot Chip. So I tried
Chip.
to recreate salt and vinegar chips as a goza.
Wow.
That would work as a goza, yes.
So lactic acid for the vinegar.
Yep.
Salt and potatoes in the mash to get all the potato starch.
Wow.
Wow.
Did it work?
How did it come out?
So if you drank it within 2 weeks of release, it was great.
Yeah.
But then I don't know what happened with the starches from the potatoes started to mess with it.
Okay.
And it became a bit viscous
wrong.
and a bit
So
wrong.
it actually tasted like salt and vinegar chips.
That's
Yeah.
mad. Because I mean, like gozas traditionally are usually brewed using seawater anyway, and like salt, like saline.
Okay,
You know, so that makes sense. You know.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah, so that's
fantastic.
quite interesting. I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's the thing. It's just the beauty of brewing. It's the same with cooking or making hot
Anything,
sauce or whatever.
music
It's making music. You got to break a few eggs to make the omelette, I suppose.
Definitely.
So what's your favourite beer that you guys have made and released up to date?
And have you got any new ones coming out?
Yeah.
Okay, so my two favourites are Dark Moment was one I did for Easter last year.
Okay.
So it was all about, Jesus had a big heavy crucifixion session and he's kind of stuck in a cave and he wakes up and how the hell what do you do next?
I like it. I like it.
It was a porter.
Yep.
Sorry, an imperial porter
Ooh.
with Shiraz grapes and chocolate.
Oh wow.
Oh,
So it was
super Eastery.
Yeah.
So it's like the two sides of Easter. The Easter Bunny side and the kind of Catholic side as well.
That's right.
I like it.
And that was probably our most popular.
Wow.
And then the other one, I love Belgian beers. If you reach behind you, just grab those.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, mate. There you are, sir.
So this is...
Do the shaky.
This is probably one of my favourites, and we've just about...
Cheers.
We're down to like the last 10 litres or something of it all together.
Oh, wow. Oh, yep. Very Belgian. That
So
wheat.
It's a golden strong arm.
I've never smelled anything like this.
So that is...
Wow.
So we use like a noble hops, which is like a traditional kind of mild hops.
Yep.
But then most of the aroma you get out of it is actually from the yeast and the grain instead. So it's quite a complex. Most beers would have somewhere between, maybe 2 or 3 different grains in it.
Mm-hmm.
This one, or most Belgians has, I think, 5 different grain blends.
Yeah.
You've got biscuit malts and aromatic malts and all kinds of stuff in there. And I just think, this is 6.5%.
Oh, mad.
Yeah, I was going to
But
ask
it's
that,
killer.
is the stronger the beer, so the stronger the tasting the beer, is it the stronger alcohol volume?
Not necessarily. It depends on how it ferments as well.
Okay.
So it comes back to that thing, like fast fermenting can
Yes,
sometimes
yep.
taste really alcoholic,
Yep.
but it's
Yeah.
actually not.
Yeah.
Whereas this was slow fermented.
Yeah,
So
slow and
it's
low.
high alcohol, slow and low.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, particularly with like Belgian yeast and a lot of German yeast as well, the temperature that you ferment at will determine whether you get banana or whether you get clove.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's
Okay,
a lot of Belgians and like wheat beers in general. You're going to get banana, bubble gum,
Bubblegum,
all things like that. And so that's.
Yeah.
But I never realised that's to do with the temperature.
Yeah.
That's another
Yeah.
mind-blowing
You
moment.
get the proper tips from a proper
Yeah.
brewer.
So there's wheat in the grain
no
mix
wheat in
here.
this?
No wheat.
No.
Wow.
So it's got Pilsner malt, Pilsner, aromatic, biscuit, Munich again, caramel.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a real kind of throw it all in the cauldron.
What's the name of this
Oh,
one?
this one's called Van Dam.
Van Dam. Oh, Belgium.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes, the muscles from Brussels. Hey.
That is very clever.
I love it. It's all the branding is so snappy, mate.
So good, yeah.
That degree really paid off. You know?
I would have turned around and said, "Oh, I watched Kickboxer and come up with this beer." And
Yeah.
thought, Van Dam, but no.
Was it kickbox me in the chops?
Yeah, it will at 6.5%. Will give you Kickboxer.
So what have you got coming out soon, and where can we find it?
Well, so the first festival back from COVID starts in like 2 weeks. Bit exciting.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
Yeah, nice, good.
We'll be there with our cameras.
Lovely. So I've got 2 villains coming out for that. One
Wicked.
is called Freak Out,
Ooh.
which is using so that's a double mash hazy double IPA.
Ooh,
about
wow.
7.5%.
Yep.
And that uses the hops, which is actually called Zappa, as in Frank Zappa.
As in Frank. It's Freak Out, baby.
Yeah,
I love it.
Music elements coming in again, mate. That's awesome.
His first album. Freak
Yeah,
Out.
great album.
So yeah, it took me a while. I went through a few of his songs, and if you listen to the lyrics of his songs a bit closely, you can't put them in the title of the There's some odd concepts in that stuff. Let's move for Freak Out instead.
Yeah, I like it.
But so that one, and then we've got another one which is called Carnaval, which is a Brazilian beer base with, so it's kind of not very hoppy.
Yep.
Okay.
Not too bitter.
Kind of more like a cerveza kind of style.
Yeah. But I've added a whole bunch of grapefruit pulp. And,
wow.
and
Grapefruit.
hibiscus.
And with hibiscus flower. Ooh.
So it comes out a really nice pink
Yep.
colour.
And that sweetness from the hibiscus as
a
well
little bit there,
comes
yeah.
through.
So you get
Nice.
you get a really kind of tart citrus from the grapefruit, and the top note of the berry kind of flavour that you get from hibiscus.
That sounds
Well,
awesome.
we'll be at your tent for sure. We'll be down at the marquee, don't you worry.
100%,
Yeah.
I've got to try those. And so whereabouts can we find the rest of the range, the heroes?
The heroes are always down. You can find them if you go to our website.
Which we'll put under the screen once.
Yep.
Link below.
Yep. There's a where button on there. You can find them there. But we're in around 50 or 60 bottle shops across Perth.
Yep.
Mostly liquor barons and celebrations.
Yep.
And or you can come into Osborne Park when we get our tap room up and running again.
Yep.
Cool.
And a lot of bars. Really, just look on our website. It's probably the best thing. Or follow us on Instagram because we always post where we are.
Yeah.
Well, we'll link everything in the videos down below, so everyone can check all of that out. And this has been awesome, man. But before we go, I just wanted to ask, what is a few pieces of advice you could give to local up-and-coming brewers and just local creators of things in general?
People like me that don't really go outside the usual beer they drink, like Export or VB or Melbourne Bitter or Tui's or wherever you're from.
I think I'll answer that question first.
Yeah.
I think people expect that craft beer, or which is now more and more often called independent beer, is going to be over the top, overwhelming, like all the American styles used to be.
Yep.
There are so many good independent breweries across Perth that, like me, they make beers that you can just have and you don't have to think about. They got both that range, or they've got their own seasonal and
100%.
experimental stuff. So I think people just and are opening up their minds a lot more to everything that you can get from beer. I think there's more to offer from beer than there is from wine, is what they say.
Yes.
100% agree. Fight me.
Support your local. Support your local business. Support local artists, and it's something that we're trying to do here at Flytrap is bring that sort of level up with businesses, music, brewers, food, stuff like that. So.
And when, as to the young budding brewers that are watching right now, what's the piece of advice you reckon you could give them?
So the first thing I would say is don't believe everything that you read in the forums, because everyone has an opinion, everyone thinks they're right.
The amount of groups I've unsubscribed from, more than the ones I'm joined.
Just go and read the technical book, or ask someone makes great beer.
Yeah.
And every time it's different depending on what system you use. So just experiment that's why we've got the villains. So we try different ways of different techniques, different methods. So just experiment. And the last thing I'd say is, which took me a long time to learn, is don't take it personally when people don't like your beer.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for having us, mate.
No worries. Thanks, boys.
Thanks
Awesome.
very much.
Cheers. And thanks for tuning in, guys, for the first episode of Lous Brew Reviews. And we'll be back very soon with another one. Enjoy your beers. Take it easy.
See you, mate.
From the way of the bullet back to the way of the blade, the give and the take is basically all the same.